Welcome to the Animal Behavior and Welfare Open Day Overview Talk. Over the next half hour or so, I will give you an introduction to the program, its content, structure, and also the kind of career options that are out there. My name is Nicholas von Engelhardt. I'm Program Lead of Animal Behavior and Welfare. But throughout this talk, you will also get to know some of my colleagues. So in order to do that best, I'll share a presentation with you that will show you some of the key features of this program. Obviously, most of you are probably excited and interested on the one hand in animal behavior, on the other hand also in animal welfare, and this degree combines really both of these aspects. And that's also why most of the researchers that you'll meet are excited about this topic. They want to understand animal behavior and also care about their welfare. So rather than talking through dry slides, I want to start with a brief introduction to one of our field courses and show you what the students experience with the lectures. And this will be introduced by one of our other lecturers, Sarah Collins, who is a lecturer on the program and also the admissions tutor and can answer questions about the admissions.
We take our students to Slapton in their first year of the Animal Behaviour and Welfare degree, and the idea is they get to see animals behaving in their natural environment. So we take them out, they do loads of different activities. They do small mammal trapping, so they get an idea of what kinds of small mammals are in the typical farmland habitats. They put out camera traps and they might pick up otters, badgers, deer, all sorts of different bird species that come out at night. They do bird song recording. They go and do some water quality surveys and look at the invertebrates that are in different quality water.
The aim was really to give us a better idea of what we're learning about in lectures, so that I suppose in the job environment we can say we've had this example where we've tested our skills.
The field trip itself seems to have quite a big impact on the students. Their first years, this is their first residential field course with everyone on their course. By the end of it, they've got to know people they didn't know before, but they seem to grow in confidence over the week.
We went out one night and we had these sort of, I suppose you call them like sonar almost, and you'd point it into places and you could hear the bats communicating and the sonar, so when they're flying around, when it's actually pinging off the buildings and everything, so you could actually hear them, you'd hear them just fly past you before you even really see them.
Part of Slapton I really enjoyed was being out in the countryside all week, because we had to walk between locations and it was a really beautiful place with a beach and a lake.
Slapton itself is a fantastic location. It's relatively nearby, which means we can have staff coming in and out to do bits of the activities that are relevant to their expertise, but also it's got woodland, it's got small streams, it's got the ley. It's got lots of different birds, it's got the farms nearby with a variety of different species. The field station's brilliantly set up, the food's amazing, the accommodation's great, so it's a perfect place really.
It helps me apply stuff, so I can think back to Slapton and think, oh, that's why we did that exercise, and it helps me absorb kind of the on paper stuff more.
We had a great week, it was really enjoyable, and I think it gave all of us a new appreciation for the work we're doing.
So this is also a great place for student and staff to get to know each other and get into the topic and work together and see that study is not just the theory, but the praxis, and combining that together is of course what motivates the students and inspires them then to do their best during the studies. The other part of the course is focusing on more the captive animals. Of course, we are working with animals in a lot of settings, which already shows what wide range of careers out there. So you will study animal welfare in farm context with turkeys, chicken, cows, horses. You will study pets and such as dogs and cats, and you will study research animals such as mice and rats, where we also have a research facility in Plymouth that we are visiting, and then exotic animals such as in zoos and aquaria. So really a wide range of context to understand animal welfare, but of course also their behavior and relate that to the behavior in the wild. And the third aspect I want to mention at the start is that, of course, you're getting during those studies involved in a wide range of exciting research themes, and we'll get to know the diversity of different lecturers that study behavior and welfare, from social behavior to animal conservation, mate choice, and animal personalities. So you have met me. My interest is social behavior, reproduction, and physiology. Then we have Jo Newbold, who is our link to the zoo. She's also employed by Paynton Zoo and is studying zoo animals. Then Richmond, we have Carol Furex, who works on dogs, horses, and mice, on emotions, also their mental states and welfare. Sarah Collins, interested in mate choice and communication. Catherine Herborn, working on wild and captive bird welfare and physiology. Mike Tom, an evolutionary biologist and behavior biologist interested in sexual selection. Victor Curry, a food engineer interested in nutrition, safety, and microbiology. Mark Briffa, a marine biologist and animal behavior biologist interested in animal contests and animal personalities. And then Alex Wilson, also working especially on fish and their personalities, but also on groups and social behavior. And that's just a part of all the lectures that you'll meet in biology, in the marine area. There are others that work also in environmental sciences, so a wide field where you can get involved in. So let me get you an introduction into the kind of topics you'll have to learn. So focusing first on the animal behavior part, you obviously learn about the principles and theories of animal behavior, but you also link that into the evolution, ecology, context, and then how to apply that in a conservation biology, which is one area where many of our students like to go into. Obviously, you have to learn also what goes on inside the animals. You learn about the physiology, cell biology, and genetics. So really getting into the depth of how the behavior and the structure and function of animals is regulated. And in order to do that, you need also some mathematical, quantitative skills that will help you to understanding how do we actually measure and quantify behavior, and how do we statistically prove that what we're observing is actually something that exists in the real world. So we are not just looking at the behavior, we also need, of course, to objectively quantify and prove our observations. And then with respect to the animal welfare part, you again learn definitions, measurement, and management of animal welfare. You learn about what are indicators of good and poor welfare, which includes behavior, not only learning about the physical, but also the mental health, something that's becoming more and more important. You learn about housing and husbandry methods that ensure or maybe impact negatively on the welfare, learn about nutrition, diseases, and parasites. And then finally, especially last year, we have high levels discussions on the philosophy and animal welfare, debates on the ethics, and learn about the legal aspects. How does that work in practice? So what practical skills will you actually acquire? Of course, as you've seen in the field trip, you learn out in the field, but also in the lab, how to identify species, monitor species, how to study their behavior in a variety of contexts. In the lab and in the field, we learn a variety of specialist equipment and techniques, such as measuring hormones, recording sound, recording behavior. And while you're doing that, you develop some own small research projects that lead up then to your final year, bigger research projects. You learn how to collect, summarize, and analyze data. You'll write essays, lab reports, reviews, and proposals, and then present that to others and to us in an engaging and understandable way. Because of course, again, when you go out later into a job or apply for a job, you want to show that you have not only learned and understood the topics yourself, but you also can present it to others. You're not left alone with that. You usually work in groups, and that also allows you to learn how to be a good team worker. And you'll have to learn how to manage your own time and working. Again, that important skills for getting out into a job later. How does that look then in actual module content? So as you probably know, the course goes over 3 years, maybe 4 years if you take a placement year. And then each year consists of 2 semesters, and each semester has 3 modules. in general. So each year has 6 modules. In the first year, you get the introduction module to animal behavior and welfare, where you learn the basic key skills, get everybody on speed into the topic. Then you'll have a module on ecology and diversity of life. So how does behavior link to the outer world? And you get a module on cells, the building blocks of life, which allow you to understand how our organisms made up, how their cells, the genetic metabolic pathways work. And then you'll link that by a module on evolution and behavior. So how evolution works and how has behavior evolved. You learn about the principles of physiology. So that's one step up from the cell module. How does physiology, structure and function of animals, but also plants and fungi work in order to understand how whole organisms function. And then we'll go out to SLAP into these field trips and look at the natural history and the field study of key groups of animals and plants to bring all that together in the real world. Through all these courses, you'll have a range of different field trips. So we go to settings, rescue, rehabilitation, conservation of animals. We go to the aquarium to look at marine and aquatic species. We go to the zoos that are in the area, looking at exotic animals. And that's really a great thing about Plymouth. We not only have the beautiful environment that you see in the back of behind me with the sea and the moors and the land. We also have a range of different zoos and captive settings where animals are housed that we can visit and understand them. And then you have seen the field trip already, where we spend a week with the students together. In the second year, you get a more in-depth understanding on animal health and welfare, looking at the husbandry, nutrition, welfare and health of captive animals, where we visit farms and zoos and research housing. You learn about more about methods in behavior, so in-depth skills for behavior study, how to design experiments, which will help you then also for your final year project. You have another module on animal behavior, where we learn how and why animals behave the way they do, so both function and the mechanism for a range of different types of behaviors. You get a comparative zoology module, where you study the range of different species, the morphology, development, and taxonomy to get really good overview on the whole animal kingdom. And then in the spring of the second year, we have another field trip on animal behavior and welfare, where we at the moment visit a number of different zoos in the Netherlands. In the second year, you also have an option. So some students are more interested in the wild animals and their conservation. So they often take the principles of conservation biology module, where you understand the genetics of population and community ecology. And the others that are more interested in the captive animals or their physiology take the animal ecophysiology module, where you understand more about the physiological mechanisms and how they have evolved and are adapted to the environment. Again, there's a range of different field trips we're doing to visit farming and conservation management setting, laboratory animals and exotic animals, and animal rescue. And then we spend a week, roughly a week in the Netherlands, visiting a range of different zoos to look at how the different settings of zoos ensure an impact on animal welfare. And the students as a group collect data and then analyze that, comparing different species and different zoos. That brings me to these skills that you're learning throughout the first 2 years that we track and assess. And that also are the basis of your accreditation. So the degree is accredited as a general biology degree by the Royal Society of Biology. So even though you go away with a specialization in animal behavior and welfare, you are accredited as a general biologist. And these are assessed throughout the first 2 years in a portfolio that you're building, and that sign off. And that also, of course, gives you the confidence that you have acquired those skills, and that when you apply for a placement or later for a job, that you can use to build your CV and show to future employers. Between the first and the second year, if you want, you can also apply for an international year abroad. So we have a range of connections to universities in Europe and internationally, for example, Canada and Australia. And we have students that come to visit us and students that go abroad. Generally, those years abroad for the students that apply for it are likely to be approved. There are a few extra expenses because we exchange between different students, so they cover the fees for you abroad and you cover their fees for their year here. If you go within the EU, at the moment there's even extra financial support through Erasmus that we hope will continue in the future as well. Between the second and the third year, a lot of animal behavior and welfare students also go for a placement year. That gives students on-the-job experience that allows them to apply their skills they have learned in the first 2 years in practice and understand how important their knowledge and their skills are for a job in various fields. They're a minimum of 6 months. You have support from the university and from a mentor and supervisor. And again, in the EU, at the moment, you have extra financial support for those. And the pictures you see here are just a range of different placement opportunities that many of our students have chosen. And we have good connections to previous students where a student can ask about their experience and get advice on these different placement opportunities. And in some places also students go as pairs or in small groups so that they have this confidence that they're not alone in a foreign country. Coming back from placement or coming back from the second year, students will mainly focus in the last year on a final year research project where they have an advisor and together with the advisor discuss and decide about a project that they have to plan, for which they have to collect data and that they write up. So that really shows all the skills, both in theory and in practice, that students have acquired over the year. And writing that up then again gives a great basis of showing that to future employers. And again, there's a wide variety of projects that relates mostly to the interests of the advisors plus the interests of the students, and we try to accommodate them. In addition to the final year research project, there's also a number of modules that are taken. So that is especially the animal welfare and ethics module where we explore and debate animal welfare in a variety of contexts. And then also an advanced skills and concept module where we go deeper into a range of different skills related to the expertise of different staff. For example, on animal learning and training, animal legislation and policies, science communication, advanced data analysis, or conservation management. So that gives students a good idea about the different types of topics they might later maybe move into for a job. And then in the second part of the final year, students have a choice of 2 different modules. At the moment, this could be animal nutrition, behavioral ecology, conservation physiology, and fish and fisheries. And the 2 last modules are taught by the marine area. So they focus especially on physiology and conservation of marine species and the management of wild fish populations. So for those students that are especially interested also to get some connection with the marine field, that is also an excellent option. So that covered the 3 years. How does that work with teaching and assessment? What do you have to expect? In the first year, there are roughly 20 to 24 hours contact per week. And that then decreases over the years as you do more and more independent work. In the final year, there are about 10 hours contact per week. And the rest of the time you really spend on your project where you might meet your advisor or wherever you do your research projects, which can be in the field or in the lab somewhere. Your assessments throughout the years, we focus a lot on the coursework. That's where you learn really the in-depth practical and communication skills and research skills. So that can be practical reports, essays, talks, you give posters, do debates, demonstrate animal training, produce a public information leaflet or conservation management plan. So some of the modules have only coursework, especially the field trips and the methods modules. But of course, we also assess your knowledge and exams where on a more short-term basis, within a few hours, we test your knowledge on certain topics. So in the first year, 4 out of the 6 modules will have exams for 50% of the module. The rest will be coursework. In the second year, also 4 of 6 modules with exams. And then in the final year, 3 out of the 5 modules will have exams that generally cover 50% of the module mark. So that is a balanced test of your, on the one hand, in-depth abilities to produce some quality work, but also a test of your general broader knowledge, which can be only assessed in the exams. You're obviously not alone in your studies, so you have your mentor, your tutor. Each of us lecturers has about 10 students for every year that we look after and help to get into. Of course, there's a network of students that are supporting each other throughout the years, so there's good links usually between the second and the final year with the first year students. And then also the university provides further support through the Learning Gateway, through a writing cafe, the Sum Up, which is support for the mathematical, numerical skills. And we have a health and well-being center that also provides for mental and physical health issues support that may affect their studies, and that we as lecturers then during field trips and our courses should take into account. And finally, there's a career service and placement center that supports your professional development in addition to the support you get from your lecturers. So all that we hope will give the students the confidence that if there are periods where they struggle, they will have a variety of places where they can go for help. And none of the students that we accept on the degrees will have to worry about not managing their degree or being overwhelmed by some of the skills. All of you can get through the course and gain the skills that they need if they take the time to study and seek the support when they need that. That brings me then to the end. Of course, you want to go away from this degree with a career, and you might wonder, or your parents might wonder, what kind of careers are out there. So I give you an idea of the kind of jobs that our students are doing. And a lot of them like to work in a zoo, rescue, rehoming area, in conservation, welfare, and in charities. Other students work more into the laboratory area, working as nutritionists, technicians, or for diagnostics in animal welfare, ecotoxicology, and in the nutrition area. Other students work in behavior, welfare, therapy, and training, especially for pets, so animals you have at home. Of course, not everybody goes immediately into a job, so that's a whole other area where students do further study and research, and we offer 2 and more interesting programs ourselves. So some of our students move on to the Master in Zoo Conservation Biology, others into the Master in Sustainable Aquaculture, and we also have other master programs in the marine area and environmental sciences. Of course, we also often recommend students to move to other universities. So Manchester, Bristol, Cambridge are just some of the universities our students have moved into. And then students go into other fields, education, publishing, and science communication, maybe also to teacher training. So some work as teachers in colleges or in other educational settings. And finally, students move into government work, consultancy, NGO, and consumer relationships. So as you can see, as you know, animals are important everywhere in our world for us in our lives. And so there are also a lot of jobs out there where you have to have a good knowledge about animals, their physiology, their behavior, and their welfare in order to care for them. So I don't think anyone has to worry about not having a career option out there. It is more a question of getting into the study, finding your own interest and following that, and getting an in-depth skill into those areas. Why Plymouth? Except for the beautiful environment that you see behind me, you find in Plymouth a good combination of being able to get involved in ongoing research in a wide variety of topics. You have excellent opportunities for local and foreign field work experiences. You have the different types of placement opportunities, again, that can be local or abroad or elsewhere in the UK. You get an excellent career support. Animal Behaviour and Welfare has built over the years a large LinkedIn group with alumni and current students that help answer questions, get you ideas for your careers. And overall, most students at the end of the course have said that they enjoyed it a lot, but also that it challenged them to get the kind of skills they need to get a good career and an enjoyable career later. With that, I want to end with a couple of links that you can look at to get more information. And thank you for your interest. And we'll have also a Q&A session later in the year where you can ask me questions. And of course, you can contact other lecturers and the university of formal questions. Thank you very much for your interest, and goodbye.